Hey folks, just wanted to give you a quick rundown on the Excel tutorial 2. Starts off in the green section. You can see it here on my screen here. So getting started with Excel tutorial 1. If you look on the objectives on the left hand side, open and close, blah blah blah, session 1.2, enter formulas, and do sum and count. I'm going to get you through at least the session 1.1. So these are going to be the sections that we're going to definitely cover. So open and close a workbook, navigate, select cells, plan and create, insert, rename, move worksheets, enter text, dates, and numbers, and undo and redo actions, resizing columns and rows. Alright, so you got all that. I'm going to flip over to the next page because this is really the 2 pages that I want you to be able to look at. Look at those green boxes. Make sure you're looking at the colored words like the ribbon, like the tab, like the formula bar. Look at all those things and just make sure you understand what each one of them does roughly, just by words. Those are the things that we're going to be covering in this particular session. And there's the next page on Excel, page 3. So again, it's the green section in the book. And if you look at those green boxes, those are going to be the things that are going to show up on the quiz. Alright, enough said. It's going to be real similar to all the stuff we did in Word. In fact, you might even see some things overlapping. So I'm on page EX4, so Excel page 4, and I've got it listed on my screen here, but I'm going to actually get out of this so I can show you in our class how that's going to work. Okay, so I'm going to get over here. This is the section that we're working on, and if you're watching this and it's in a different semester, it's going to be basically the same thing as we did with Word. We're going to be working on the Excel tutorial 1. We're looking at the objectives. That's where the objectives are listed as well in our class. You're going to need to do the tutorial, which is going to be the SP customer order and SP customer order form drop box. Once you've done that first tutorial, which will cover the first 50 or so pages, 50 or 60 pages, then you'll need to do the review, which is in the blue section at the end of tutorial 1 for Excel. And then finally do the Excel tutorial quiz. So in my book, I'm actually staring at page EX4, and I'm looking at starting Excel step 1. Alright, so again, I'm gone with that, and I'm going to open up my files here. So step 1 is open up Excel in your computer. So you're looking for Excel 2013. If you're using Excel 2010, it will work. I wouldn't recommend it, but it will work. So once you've got that open, we want to go to the recent screen, which is this one, and at the very bottom of it we want to open up other workbooks. And so at the bottom of the green section right over here, and I'm on step 1 on page EX5 now. Step 1 on page EX5. Open another workbook. Alright. Once that comes up, we want to click on Computer, and now we need to go find out wherever it is that we put our student data files. So let me see where I put mine. Okay, clearly that wasn't it. Okay, so I'm getting into my Excel tutorials. I'm looking for Excel 1. I'm looking for the tutorial folder, and there should be a file called spfinances.xlsx. The .slxx may or may not show up. This is an Excel 2013 file. I'm going to choose Open. Once I open it up, this is kind of what it's going to look like. There's some stuff at the bottom. There's this stuff in the middle, the Sparrow and Pond. It says Sally Hughes. And that's the image that you'll see. at the bottom of page 5. Is that correct? So if you look at the image on the bottom of page 5, you should be looking at this. Alright, so I'm flipping over onto page 6. I want you to just look real briefly at those items that are listed there on page 6. The Excel keyboard shortcuts. Some of these are real similar to the ones that are in the Microsoft Word. Some of them are different. So take a look at those. You might see some of the same sorts of things. Some of them might be different. For example, if you actually look at the Control and S, that's the same in both Word documents and in Excel documents. Alright, so let's move over onto the next page, on page 7, to switch between touch mode and mouse mode. So let's go back into our document here. It's the same Word and Excel. So if you click on the little drop down near the quick access toolbar here, it lets you toggle between touch mode and mouse mode. Unless you've got a laptop that has some kind of touchscreen computer, you probably do not want this to be checked. It's possible, but unlikely that you're going to need to adjust that. You're using a mouse. I'm going to skip the rest of that there, so you can go through those steps if you'd like to. In the name of being efficient, I'm going to flip over onto page 8. So on page 8, change the active sheet. So I'm looking at the active sheet. Sorry, I keep looking away. My book's over here on the desk. But I want to change the active sheet. And you want to click on the Income Statement Sheet tab, and that's listed at the very bottom of the screen there. So I'm going to get back in here. So click the Income Statement. So if I go between Income Statement and Documentation, these are different worksheets. What we're looking at in general, what we opened was a workbook. The book has sheets or pages in it, and I just keep flipping back and forth because it's kind of fun. Not really, but if I click on the expenses, you can see that you've got something slightly different that shows up here. So it's more of an image. But the image is created based upon some of the data that's in the expenses section of the income statement. So these things create this. It'll make more sense as we go through this and get into more details. So I'm moving over onto page 9 at this point. So on page 9, you should be able to see, click the balance sheet. So let's go back to our document. We'll click the balance sheet. It says Sparrow and Pond balance sheet now. It's highlighted in green at the bottom here on my document. And so now that's considered the active sheet. And you can see it's got different sorts of information there. You can see some odd things. You can see percentages in this column. You can see what you would assume would be dollar amounts, and you can also see that dollar sign is shifted way to the left, and then there's a whole bunch of things that don't have dollar signs next to them. Let's click on the cash flow sheet. So now that's the active sheet. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. One of them is active. Cash flow is actually active. And the cash flow has other sorts of information. And just FYI, when you see data that's in parentheses, that really does mean something. And we'll get into that here in a little bit. So when they want us to click back on the income statement in step 5 on page 9. So we've got the income statement. Your income statement should look similar to mine. Lists income, including gross sales, cost of goods sold, profits, etc. Okay, let's go down to the bottom of page 9. And they want us to, on the vertical scroll bar, click the down arrow button. So over here, to scroll down on the income statement until you can see line 36. And then once you find line 36, click on cell C36. Okay, so I just clicked on cell C36, and C36 contains the $4,600. And I know that I'm in cell C36 because there's a green box around it, and when I look up, it says C, and when I go to the left, it says 36. But more importantly, when I come up here, it shows me that this is cell C36. On the horizontal scroll bar, so this is the horizontal scroll bar, click the right arrow button 3 times, and if I didn't have such a wide monitor, it would be even more interesting, but it will go 3 columns to the right when I click the scroll bar. Okay, I'm going to go back. And so that was step 2 on page 9. On step 3, on the horizontal scroll bar, drag the scroll bar to the right, drag it to the left until you can see column A. Column A is here. Okay, that's column A. So on the vertical scroll bar, it's this one, drag the scroll bar up until you can see the top of the worksheet in cell A1. And when I click in column A, in row 1, A1 shows up in what's known as the name box up here. So if I just hover over top of that A1 at the top, it says name box. So it's telling you what it is. It's actually pretty simple once you use it a bunch. If you don't use this a bunch, some of this terminology might actually not make a lot of sense to you. Alright, so I'm moving over onto page 10. This is page 10. I think the Excel navigation keys, this is probably something you want to look at a little bit. All of these things do different sorts of things. So the arrow keys, the up, down, left, right arrow keys, they're going to move things around for you. The home key, it's going to take you all the way up to the top, just like in Word. Control and home takes you to cell A1. Control end, page up, page down. Experiment a little bit with those things because they're probably going to help you eventually. Maybe not now, but eventually. Change the active cell. So step 1 on page 10, we're going to change the active cell. So we're going to move the pointer over cell B5. So I'm going to find cell B5. And you can see that when I click there, it tells me in the name box what it is. So if I click here, which is wrong, that's wrong. Oh, that's right, B5. And that's step 1 on page 10. And so I've clicked the mouse button, and so in step 1 you can see that the cell reference has changed. In step 2, if I press the right arrow key, it moves over to cell C5. So instead of B5, it says C5 in the name box. And if I press the PG down key, so page down, it takes me 1 page down based upon however wide or tall my monitor is. And if I press page up, it takes me right back to where I was. And if I press the control key and the home key, it takes me all the way back up to cell A1. And you can see all those changes occurring in the name box at the top. Okay, so I'm moving on. I'm at the bottom of page 10, step 1, to use the Go To dialog box and the name box. So I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet. On the Home tab, so I'm going to make sure I've got the Home tab selected, not the Insert, nothing else, just Home. Click the Find and Select button. So on the right-hand side, you can see Find and Select. So we've clicked the button, and actually we didn't. Let's click the button itself. Alright, so we want to click on Go To. So there's a little blue arrow to the faces to the right. Go To, followed by 3 periods. Go To. And there's a menu that shows up there, and they want us to type in C36. So once you type C36 into the reference field, and then click on Go. And it automatically takes you down to cell C36. and then click in the name box up here at the top, and then type in A and 1, and then press the Enter key, and then it takes you straight back up to the top. Okay, I'm going to do just a couple more things and we'll take a quick break, just because these videos will drive me crazy after a while. Alright, select a cell range. I'm at the bottom of page 11. Okay, bottom of page 11. We've already done this. We're at the bottom of page 11. Select a cell range. Click cell B5 to select it, and then drag all the way down to cell C8. So they want us to click in cell B5 and then go all the way down to cell C8. And then let go of your left mouse button. And once you do that, I've actually highlighted a range of cells. So not just one cell, but I've got a range. So it goes from cell B5 all the way down to cell C8. And that's a really important skill for you to be able to get good at. And if you can't do this, everything else becomes really difficult. So if you look on step 2, it says there's a range that says B5 colon C8. That's just the terminology, and you're going to have to get used to that. Okay, a couple more things here. If we click in cell A1, it deselects that whole thing. And in the name box, it shows up as A1. Bottom of page 12. Select a non-adjacent range in the income statement worksheet. So click on cell B5. Whoop, B5. I got cell B5. And now hold down the Shift key. You've got two of them, but hold down the Shift key and then click in cell C8. And it does the same thing, except I didn't have to drag anything. And that's pretty important in really big ranges. So instead of clicking and then scrolling around to go find it, if it's on a different page, this makes it a little bit easier. So press the Shift key and it allows you to be able to highlight that whole thing. Step 2, hold down the Control key as you select the range B10. So I clicked in cell B10. Actually, I shouldn't have done that. I should have kept my range. I should have pressed the Control key, and then I should have clicked in cell B10 and gone all the way down to cell C14. And you can see that there's a row on row 9 that is not highlighted. And so these are called non-adjacent ranges. And you can see that in step 2. Look at the picture on the next page, on page 13, and you can see that they've got, maybe not. That picture looks wrong, doesn't it? I'm in the wrong page. Haha. There we go. That's a non-adjacent range. Okay, so you should be seeing that in your book. I'm going to go back to page or cell A1, and I'm going to close this workbook. So on the ribbon, click on File, and I've got Backstage View, and now I could click on the Close button. Excel continues to run, but it doesn't have any workbooks open with any pages in them. There's nothing there. If I hover over top of the X at the bottom, it shows Excel, but it doesn't show any other workbooks. And at this point, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and we'll finish this section.